Welcome back to a new installment of No Filter Tuesday. I'm about to dive into part two of the parenting topic. Part one was a crossover, so to speak. I used content from my car confession series to dive into parenting part one. So I want to explore a little deeper, wade in different waters a bit, expound upon some of my thoughts from part one, which was recorded about like 3 years ago. So, part two of parenting, I want to dive into how our foundational teachings show up in adulthood. So, I have quite a few friends who are married and are parents, and one thing that is a constant topic of conversation is about responsibilities and how those responsibilities are disproportionately distributed amongst spouses. And I think that has a lot to do with gender roles that are taught or that are not taught, and the impact that it has at the end of the day is frustration and exhaustion, truth be told. So I just want to kind of dive into that. As I stated, I have friends who are mothers and spouses, and a couple of guy friends, husband, fathers, right? And I think that one of the major things that tends to come up is the splitting of household chores. It's one of the major things that comes up when we talk about gender roles in parenting and how those things play out in adulthood, right? So, my friends and I have noticed from our own lives and from just conversations that parents tend to reinforce gender roles. You could even see that topic woven into the conversation that was floating through social media about buying little boys' kitchen sets, right? I feel my own type of way about that particular conversation, but I'll say this on that. Choosing not to buy a young man, a little boy, a kitchen set is a bit absurd to me, because the fact is that if that young man spends any time as a single individual on his own as a bachelor, he's going to have to make his way into a kitchen, whether that's to cook his own food or to warm up food that he purchased or got from someone else, because at the end of the day, we all need to eat to survive, regardless to gender. So that's my take on it. A young man will always find his way into the kitchen. And I think that that's very, very, like, it's common sense. Like, it's common sense. Ask any parent who has a teenage boy. He always finds his way to the kitchen to eat, to snack, whatever have you. So him being able to make his way around the kitchen, I don't see a problem with that. And I don't see a problem with buying him a kitchen set, because it's literally a part of life, regardless to him being married, single, gay, straight, all the things. Like, any title that you want to throw on a young boy, doesn't matter what the title is, he's going to have to utilize a kitchen at some point in his life. So there's that. But anyways, I think again that ties into the gender roles that are taught by parents in very small, minuscule ways, but those lessons become larger as time goes on. For example, when a woman is cooking in the kitchen, right? The woman sometimes beckons the daughter to come watch her cook so that she can learn. That's not always the case with both kids, both gender of kids, right? So you don't necessarily have women saying, hey son, hey daughter, both of you come watch mommy cook, because at some point you're both going to be living outside of this home and you'll need to be able to feed yourselves, and preferably you would want to eat something that tastes good, right? That tends to not happen from the conversations that I've had. I know that we are a generation that is moving differently, and kudos to us for doing so. But generations of old, again, me and my millennial friends are having these conversations. Please keep that in mind. We're having these conversations about how we were reared and what our parents were reared and how they maneuvered with their parents, etc. Then you have, the concept of cleaning, right? Like, oh, come clean the house, da 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 da. There is a level of meticulousness that's taught typically to the daughter that's not necessarily taught to the son. And I'm sure that's because parents just get tired of repeating themselves. Or I'm sure that that's because there's so much pushback from the young boy who's becoming a man. I know that when it comes to my nephew, that my brother, my mom, myself, his stepmother have all had to like ride him about certain things when it comes to hygiene. Those aren't always conversations that have to be repeated time and time and time again to a young woman, right? So I get it. Again, sometimes it feels like you're beating a dead horse, so you just throw your hands up and give up. That could very well be the case. But those small things, seemingly small things, turn out to things that play a larger role in that child's adult life. Because when you're cooking and your daughter is in there with you watching, learning, but your son is outside playing, essentially what you're teaching in that moment, whether you know it or not, is that when it comes to food preparation and learning how to cook, that's not his responsibility, that he's off the hook from that he can go play in the streets, play his video games, and the young girl is not off the hook. That is her role, that is her responsibility. She must know X, Y, and Z. So when your son grows up to be an adult, he has that same expectation that when it comes to eating in his household, that's his wife's responsibility. Not a shared responsibility, but his wife's responsibility, because that's what he was taught when he grew up. Again, it's not anything that's necessarily verbatim said. It's the actions that teach him that when it comes to cooking, I'm off the hook. Like, I get called in from play, from down the street, or from off the video game when the food is ready. That subconsciously teaches him that thing, that's not mine to handle or to hold. When it comes to cleaning, right? Back to what I was saying before, my nephew is someone that not only when it comes to like hygiene, but like cleaning his room, we've had to repeat. It's a battle that we're constantly going at, even into his teenage years, right? Young girls, you typically don't have to ride them as hard, as much in that area. There are young girls who are exceptions because they just like, they don't mind living in organized chaos, is what I like to call it. However, when you're teaching your daughter how to fold properly, how to make a bed, and your son is not being taught those exact same lessons, again, that subconscious is being taught that laundry and folding, oh, that's my sister's job, so that'll be my wife or my girlfriend's job in the future. Subconscious teaching. So when that young boy becomes a man and marries a woman, these are responsibilities that she has inherited, unbeknownst to her or beknownst to her, either way. But again, these are two examples of things that are not split, right? There's no split there. And I think we're living in a time where most households are double income households, meaning that both the wife and the husband are working. Sometimes that's out of necessity. Most times I think that's out of necessity, and sometimes it's just because those individuals decided this is how we're going to do things. In some of those households, the bills are split 50-50. My personal opinion is if we're splitting bills 50-50, household work should be split 50-50. Now, if you and your spouse decide that because someone's salary is exponentially higher than the other parties, that this party is going to carry more of the financial weight, that's your prerogative, more power to you. I'm not here to tell people how to do things whatsoever. I'm just simply highlighting the fact that how we parent and rear our children plays into how we show up as adults. When we talk about babysitting, topic number 3, right? So when we talk about babysitting, it's typically young girls that are paid to be babysitters. I understand that women are typically more nurturing than men, but I don't think that should let young men, young boys off the hook as far as being involved. There are so many men in different videos that I've seen where the first time they held a baby is when they had their own. That is outrageous to me. What do you mean you've never held a baby until you hold your own? As kids, I'm telling you, we're taught that, oh, babies are for girls. Kitchens and cooking is for girls. So when we become parents, you see a lot of the responsibility of child care put on the woman, because we're taught at a young age via kitchen sets and baby dolls and all of these things that, oh, this is for one gender and not the other. And like I said, these gender roles have been adopted as societal norms, but no one talks about the exhaustion that comes from these societal norms. And I think that we should definitely be talking about that. There's so many women who talk about being exhausted, outright exhausted, because you don't get a break from cooking because people still have to eat to survive. You don't get a break from cleaning because you can't live in chaos and filth and dirt and all of these things. You don't get a break from parenting because kids don't turn off. They're constantly there. So I think it's super important that we really truly evaluate how we are teaching our children in their younger age, because again, that translates into their adulthood. I definitely think that the better we prepare them to split these roles, and that there's not necessarily a gender role assigned to certain chores within the house and outside the house, I think that teaching those lessons will help alleviate some of the stressors that we feel as adults. So, trying to wrap this up in a pretty bow because I've been talking for quite some time. What I'm encouraging all of us to do is to be mindful as we start having kids, and when we have kids within our vicinity, to encourage each gender to learn different things. I definitely think it would be beneficial for a young girl to learn how to change her own oil in her car. I think it's beneficial for a young girl to learn, and when I say young girl, like clearly when they're of age to learn these things, right? I'm not expecting you to take a toddler out there and teach them about this. But anyways, changing tires, how to change their oil, And if we're being honest, this is a side note, there's a lot of men who don't know how to do these things. So I think it really absurd when men are like, can you cook, can you clean, knowing damn well that they are not fully equipped in the gender roles that are even assigned to them. Like, can you change a tire? Can you change the oil? Do you know how to work a lawnmower? Can you fix this faucet that's leaking? Anyways, that's me on a tangent. Bringing it back in though. I think that it's beneficial for a young girl to know how to work a lawnmower. I think it's beneficial for a young girl to know the difference between tools. I think that that's a life skill that would be beneficial to her. Does she have to do it in her marriage? That's between her and her spouse. But her knowing how to do it, I think that should definitely be, I don't want to say mandatory, but highly suggested, recommended, and vice versa. I think that a man, a young boy, should be taught how to cook, how to clean meticulously, how to fold, how to wash clothes. I saw a video of Eric Thomas, and he was talking about wanting to help his wife around the house and taking on the chore of washing and doing laundry, and his wife telling him, you're not doing this correctly. Like, I don't like when you wash clothes, because the clothes don't smell the way the clothes don't smell like I would like them to smell after them being washed. And so he was like, okay, bet. So when she went to go wash clothes, he watched her. He learned from his wife how to wash clothes to a point that was acceptable to her. I think that it's very important that a young man knows how to wash clothes. Now, is it going to be to his wife's standard? Who knows? But the fact of the matter is that this is something he should be taught, because again, before he gets a wife, there will definitely be a period where he's probably single and living the bachelor life, and during that time frame, he's going to need to know how to wash clothes, because he's going to need clean clothes to go into the world to try to attract his future wife. So again, my hope in you all tuning in and listening to me today is that we get to a point where we really throw some of these gender roles out the window in regards to things in the home. Do I still encourage chivalry? Yes, of course. Are there some women who don't want men opening the door for them? Yeah, there's some women like that out there. However, most women still appreciate chivalry. Most women still appreciate a man being mindful of them and doing things for them that society has labeled their responsibility. But again, that all comes down to what you decide works for your household. My thing is that you should know how to do all the things that are associated with your household. Again, I think a woman should know how to work a push lawnmower and a riding lawnmower if necessary. Had a colleague who owned a farm, and she would get out there and throw bales of hay with her husband. Again, it's not that it has to be done because this is assigned to you, but it's good to know how to do these things. And that's exactly what my colleague had said. She was like, my mother-in-law was looking at me puzzled, like, oh no, let my son do that. Let my son do that. And my colleague politely replied, I don't mind, because heaven forbid something happened to him and I don't know how to do this. So again, it's not about you need to do, but you should know how to do. Not you have to do, but it's good to have the knowledge so that if you ever have to do, then you aren't looking like a deer caught in headlights. That's all that I have for you guys today. Again, I'm not here telling anybody how things should be done, but I am saying equipping our young men and women with all the tools necessary to be successful with or without a spouse is probably a smart move for all of us. All right, that's all from your girl today. You know the motto. Peace out. I actually didn't say what the motto is. It's peace, hair grease, peace, hair grease, oil sheen, and everything in between. That's the motto. Sorry.